When a small cap company is pre-selected as a candidate by France's military for a 750,000 euro grant to build a pilot plant for hydrogen that shatters the status quo combustible and explosive process, and the French army would be the first player to test this technology in the real world. You should probably pay very close attention because that's exactly what HPQ Silicon and its France-based affiliate Novasium have announced. And today, they've taken that one step further with the press release. HPQ Silicon and Novasium signed MOU with GLD Alloys to produce green hydrogen with METAGENE. Bernard, welcome back, my friend.
Thank you.
All right. Before we dig into the details of this, the first thing we have to cover, because there's a lot of questions around this.
Yeah.
Who is GLD Alloys? What can you tell us about them when it comes to being a potential partner here on the production side?
Okay, GLD Alloy is a Malaysian-based aluminum recycle that does about 200,000 ton a year of aluminum recycled material. So they're expert in recycled aluminum, which we believe is the best material for us to make our fuel for the METAGENE technology.
And there were some questions about them online, and some of that might have come from the Fudsters, but I'm glad you cleared that up. And I personally, I got to make sure I make this really clear. I actually myself put that into ChatGPT. I said, help me quantify annual production capacity of 200,000 tons of recycled aluminum. I didn't use the company name, GLD, or anything like that. I just said, help me quantify this. And ChatGPT came up with that kind of production capacity per year. You're looking at $350 million, maybe 300 million if it's a lower grade quality, 400 million if it's a higher quality. But I think ChatGPT took the in-between number, 350 million. So is your understanding, you may not have the exact number, but is that the gravity of the company that you're dealing with? And I think it's important so people don't think you're doing a deal with George Common Aluminum at the end of the day.
No, it's a serious company. It is a real company that's doing real business, and yeah, and it seems to make sense. And the reason why we approach them is because they can do what we need for METAGENE.
Yeah, okay. Why did you approach them? So why GLD Alloy? Why not somebody else? How did this come together? And given how important this is for you, you got the French military potentially. You're in the last steps of a grant. We'll talk about that. You get the French military that might actually be the first field testing. Why GLD?
Okay. What it is we know since the beginning that we wanted somebody that had an expertise in, first of all, we wanted recycled aluminum, okay? Because one of the constraint required of the military was that we have a lower carbon footprint. Naturally, if you use the recycled aluminum, you have a much lower carbon footprint. So that was the primary thing. Then the second thing we wanted to is we wanted to control the cost of the energy source, okay, by using recycled aluminum. So you basically end up using a very low grade aluminum. But you also need somebody that can do the extrusion in the shapes that we want that aluminum to do. And having the capacity to do aluminum extrusion to our specification with a basically low purity aluminum material is very rare, and they had it. And this is how the discussion started, because we approached them, they approached us, we had preliminary discussion, we said, this is what we're looking for. And they got very excited by the potential, and they wanted to be more involved and just become a supplier of this material. I mean, for them, it's not just the first few materials we're going to be doing. They saw, and my understanding is they saw the potential of this technology, how it can basically create a market for a material that for them, okay, and for every aluminum recycler, basically, is such of a low purity that the only way they can sell it is by adding by adding primary aluminum into it to make it a higher purity. So it fits
you're
perfectly.
Bringing them. You're a big solution for them also then, because they have this low grade aluminum. Is that what you're saying? They don't really have much to do with it. Now they can really.
They have something. They have something to do, but they have to invest money to do it. Now, the follow-up question is, you need a special level of expertise to be able to do the extrusion into the shape that we're looking for the material, okay? With such a low quality material. So it's not everybody that wants to do it. They basically, I don't want to pollute my machine that does extrusion. There's all those type of constraints. They were willing from the beginning to do this, and from then on, the discussion arise into it. So, this is why, they're not, billion-dollar companies, but billion-dollar companies might not be interested in doing that for us, but they're just the right size for doing this. And this is where it's very good because, and they also see the potential. And the interesting, and if I can add a little bit interesting into it, is because, this started as a traditional commercial discussion where the technical guys at Novation, when we meet the sales representative of GLD in Europe, discuss if they can do the type of material in the shape we wanted to. And that evolved into the MOU. And as they signed the MOU, they saw HPQ silicone. And then they took a look at our press release, and they saw our waste to energy press release with Novation. And it says, wait a minute, we also have black aluminum draws. So we're basically in a position where both companies, or all three companies, can extract significant advantage of this relationship over time, not now, over time, because they'll become a supplier of our material that we need to start the process of the METAGENE, and they might be interested in our waste to energy because that might resolve one of their problems they have too.
And I have to note, the first time you and I talked about METAGENE and all this was
Mm.
November
Mhm.
2024. So here we are,
Mhm.
essentially the beginning of April.
Mhm.
So you talk about 4 months, if you want to be precise, 4.5 months. So is it fair to say this relationship moves along really fast?
Well, as I said in November, remember, we've been working at this for a longer time before.
Okay.
So the discussion about this, how we were going to shape the solid, do the extrusion, those things, have been ongoing, but it's advancing. Everything is advancing, much faster now. So that's where it is.
And on that note, one thing I picked up from the interview, the tone of it was overwhelming. It's in the headline. Production, production, production. You even gave dates and so on and so forth. Before we get into those dates and how realistic they are, um, devil's advocate question. It's an MOU right now. So can you be guilty of getting ahead of yourself when it's at an MOU stage?
Guilty. Well, if I'm guilty of anything, it's maybe mentioning that we're looking at the production number by 2027. That might be the one thing which I'm guilty of being overlying. Not to say that we're not going to do it, but I shouldn't have said that. It has come to my attention that I'm not a mining company anymore, a technology company. Therefore, when I talked about potential production numbers, I cannot talk for more than the fiscal year I'm into. And doing so, when I do that, it's supposedly overly promotional, those issues. I'm sorry, apologize. I will not do that mistake again. But the fact remains the same. The fact remains the same. The technology METAGENE is coming online. It is resolving an incredible problem that there is with aluminum. Okay. Well, no, with aluminum. Sorry about this. With hydrogen. Okay.
I was about to
Hy-
correct you.
yeah, well, that's good. Hydrolysis base hydrogen generation has been known for a long, long time. The process has been known for a long time. It's very well known. You put powders, you put nano powders of material, of aluminum, they'll react instantly with hydrogen. Okay. Therefore, the fact that any material that react instantly with water, okay, becomes a dangerous good. And that becomes a headache with regard to transportation, storage, and those issues. That becomes a dangerous material, as per the definition, a dangerous and explosive good. Okay. The beauty and the brilliance behind the METAGENE technology is the fact that the guys at Novation have figured a way to separate in three parts the reaction. Okay. One of them uses a solid extruded aluminum block, a silicone aluminum block. Okay. Second one, there's a catalyst, which are combined, but these two are independent of each other. Okay. And it's only within the reactor, which is the proprietary technology of Novation, where you put them in the reactor with water, that the hydrolysis reaction generates. Therefore, you can generate hydrogen under pressure anywhere in the world, and you have no transportation risk. You resolve 100% of the transportation risk, of the hazardous material risk. And the byproduct you get at the end is a non-toxic, non-hazardous material waste product that can either be, used as sandbag, recycled, put in the landfill with no environmental issue.
Now,
So
normally so go ahead, sorry.
no, it's okay.
No, because you paused there, so I figured normally I would say, all right, Bernard, that sounds good. But I have no idea of knowing if what you're saying is actually, well, I would believe it's true, but how feasible it is, will it really work? But the fact of the matter is what I said in the intro is you're pre-selected as a candidate by France's military for an up to 750,000 euro grant to build your pilot plant to do this. So clearly, smarter people than I and most people on this Zoom have decided that have concluded that this is really good technology. Where are you with respect to that potential grant from France's military? Because you were pre-selected, which is a big deal. Was like you just put in a blind application like I would and hope sort of hope that something comes back. Where are you at with that? Because that's incredible third-party validation to me.
Okay, I'll just go back one step for this to show the level of excitement. Is the solution has been always known for the military that they need portable hydrogen generation in the field. Right now, their only option, which is not really an option, okay, is to build basically diesel generator fuel to have electrolyzer system next to them, which sort of eliminates completely the problem. Since the beginning, okay, the problem that the military wanted resolved is there a way to make hydrogen on demand and that the feedstock for it be a non-hazardous material, okay? All other process to do hydrogen through hydrolysis have that issue because it always involves nanopowders, something that will react instantly with water, okay? Our aluminum extruded aluminum, you can put it in water, okay? There'll be no reaction. It will not react until we put the catalyst. So it will not really react. It cannot be fully consumed unless it's put in our reactor. So you understand that we're resolving the biggest issue because this is a material that can be pre-positioned. Okay, for Canada, now that we're talking about those issues, I think for Canada this is going to be an incredible solution. The Canadian government is saying they want to pre-position material in the north, okay, to defend the Arctic. All right. Well, if you pre-position fuel, okay, it will go bad within a few weeks, few months. If you pre-position our aluminum alloy, nothing will happen unless you put them in our reactors to work. So that's what I'm saying. This is where like I'm very excited about the potential behind this. Like this is massive, and we are there. Okay, we now have, and as we start talking more to these to people about this, companies that have a certain level of size and responsibility are saying, wait, this is an interesting business proposal, especially since, okay, we don't need to use ultra pristine primary aluminum. We can take what is considered the junk, okay, that they can't really sell, and we make it into a material that is very valuable.
When you say that, it sounds like Back to the Future and the flux capacitor, where Doc could just throw any garbage into it and turn it into fuel to
No, it's not
rocket the
any
car through
garbage.
time.
It's our extruded aluminum.
But going back to the answer you gave, because the
Hmm?
original, so that's awesome, by the way, what you said. But going back to the answer, is that your way of saying you're very confident that in fact you are going to get a grant from the French military up to 750,000 euros in order to build your pilot plant? And the reason why I asked that is
Hmm?
because you're going to say yes or no there. In given the timelines that you gave in the press release, 2025, this year, we're in April already, a pilot phase production of 10 kilograms of hydrogen per day.
Hmm?
So I guess that doesn't happen without the grant, I'm assuming. So
Yeah,
it
no,
was that was
it's
your last answer a way of saying you're incredibly confident that you will get the grant?
yeah. Yeah, I'm starting more accustomed to how the grant process works. So it's usually, you get invited to participate. So basically, you get invited, you do a preliminary submission, they come back and ask you a question, you then do file another application, and they come back and says, okay, tweak this way, and then you'll have it. So we're now at the tweak it this way to have it part. Um, and so there's no reason for it not to do because this is something that has a strategic importance to the military.
So 10
And it's gonna
kilograms
have a
a day,
strategic, yeah.
250 work days a year, ballpark. I'm ballparking it. That's 2,500 kilograms of product. That's more than enough for you guys to send off as samples to the French military. Because obviously, I guess there could be some
Well, it's
sample
not gonna be
testing.
just go. We're gonna have an operating system, okay?
Okay.
And then we're gonna put the aluminum into it. We're gonna make it work, okay? And by next year, we'll have a system, a field system version, okay, that we can take into the field, demonstrate how it works, and do it. So no, it's going to be an operating system. We already know, we've already shown a video of it at lab scale, okay, ultra small pilot lab scale. Now this is much more improved version because everything is centered and dynamic under being able to make the extruded aluminum that we're looking for. And now that see, what also changes with all of this is we have a much better idea of our cost of making it because now we know. All right. So we have all the cost dynamics of these issues. So pretty soon we will be in a position where we can present what we think will be a cost estimate of how much it costs us to make the aluminum, not the aluminum, the hydrogen on demand.
And then the field testing,
Mhm.
that's a pretty aggressive timeline also, because you're saying the first half of 2026. So you're basically
Okay.
talking end of routine 8 and 14 months from now, basically. So you're going to be moving pretty fast into field testing, which I'm assuming, can we assume the majority of that is going to be the French military again, or do you expect any other kind of field testing on top of the French military?
Once we have a working prototype, okay, I think I should explain to people, this doesn't require us building a big pilot plant, building issues. This is not at all the same thing as in the fume silica reactor and QR, those type of technology. Okay. This just requires us to build, okay, have subcontractor build and we assemble the equipment. Okay. So it's not as complicated, it's not as different than we just test it, operate it, and we'll do multiple tests as we come along. We already have a lab scale equipment to test the material. So we'll test smaller version of the extruded aluminum, see how it works. But so it's a very realistic that by the end of the year, beginning of next year, we'll have a working prototype. Then we'll do the first field test. And then after that, we'll probably have a sales team that's going to start to go to different conferences and present the story and talk about the technology and see how it works. Because we'll present it to other NATO-based military about the solution. And I'll probably happily go present it to the Canadian government, Canadian military for a solution for the Arctic.
Yeah, and presumably, if you're testing with the French military and that goes well, just digital media, press releases, PR, social media,
Mhm.
things like that, the word gets out there pretty fast.
Well,
At the end of the day, this is a massive industry, but the number of players are actually very small, right? You're talking about, if you look at the G7 primarily as your potential customer base,
Mhm.
that's not a lot of people that you have to
Well,
get to.
well, actually at the end it's going to be much bigger than it is because it's any market that's off grid. All right. Even Malaysia has multiple islands and those type of things. There's going to be market. There's always a demand for off grid energy. Okay. Either as an emergency system or either for other type of operation, either when there are natural events that occur. So there's always going to be a demand for the technology in those systems. So as I said, the potential is big. Right now, we're just focusing. Our focus for the next 12 months is just going to be on delivering that first prototype, making it work, demonstrating it works, and from then on, we will get approach in doing those type of sales. The interesting thing is the potential of this technology has attracted the interest of a mid-size aluminum recycler that is very interesting and can do the material we're looking to have done at a price that's very competitive for us.
And then the next step is a commercial launch. Now, you already addressed this in the press release, says 2027. You have to
But you
pull
say
that back
I'm
because
pulling that
as a
back.
technology company, you're not allowed to give a production timelines unless it's in the current fiscal year. So we won't, for everybody at home, it's like this is like watching Law and Order. Strike that from the record, 2027. But I do want to talk about the next step is going to be commercial launch, whatever date that's going to be.
Mhm.
Um, Question for you. Will this be like Fume Silica, where you're building modular systems around the world, or is this more a case of more centralized? Maybe one for North America, one for Europe, and you're producing massive, massive batches of this. What does commercial launch look like if and when that happens?
Okay. At this moment, I think the business plan is going to be to have uh, at first we'll have a first version model capable of producing 10 to 20 kilogram of hydrogen every day. Okay. We'll have this primary version. Then we will build bigger and bigger and bigger version. We'll design bigger and bigger version and have subcontractor build them and assemble them. And then we'll figure out how it goes about what the demands is, what's the cell like. And we already have potential clients that are really interested in saying, I don't want to have to deal with hydrogen transport to the middle of my field. There's massive potential for what's called the end of the line delivery, because it can be a good way to have a zero carbon emission vehicle doing the delivery on those type of issues. So this is where it is. But just starting with the military based contracts can be massive to start off with. So the goal now for us in this year is to demonstrate that we can produce hydrogen with our new design in a safe way. Next year is going to be to validate that in the field, third party validation. And then from then on, we will start the commercial negotiation regarding how we scale this up to commercially. But we need to have somebody, because if we sell a system, it might need a system operating X amount of day a year might need X amount of aluminum or aluminum based METAGENE fuel. So, but that will become more clear in time. But
Uh, Give us a question about give us a feel for the economics. So for a commercial launch, you're saying whenever that is, 500 tons of fuel per year, which equivalent to 50,000
nah,
kilograms of hydrogen.
nah, don't say that. Like it'll be whatever it is. It'll be whatever quantity.
Okay, yeah,
Pretty.
whatever it is per
Yeah.
kilogram. What does the stuff sell for? Just so people can do back of the napkin math
Um,
or whatever.
the research I done, it really depends. You have to take it depends. It's you have to take a look where you want to deliver. Okay. That's where I've seen prices between $15 to $20 a kilogram of hydrogen delivered. But that's anybody can do their own research in those issues. The thing is, we can deliver hydrogen when nobody else can. So, and our primary clients want that efficiency. It's not the price they really care.
Oh,
So at the beginning, our primary clients will be those. So as we get better in scope and reduce our operating costs and do all those issues, we'll be able to do it. But pretty soon, also, I think we're going to do a base case study to show how much we think it's going to cost for us to do it, deliver, and then we'll have that as a reference point versus how much it is if you want to buy hydrogen or get white hydrogen delivered to wherever you are.
I want to play devil's advocate one more time.
Mm-hmm.
If you read the press release, and if
Mm-hmm.
someone's watching this or listening to this,
Mm-hmm.
uh, it almost sounds like fait accompli, like it's almost like a done deal, right? It almost sounds like you're going to slide right into this. But you know, hell, we upgrade our website to put features on it, and it's not that easy sometimes. So you make it sound easy, and not because you're trying to, but where's that confidence come from? But what I want to know is, I think what everyone at home wants to know also is, where are the potential risks here? Like with the fume silica, you're very clear about where the potential risk would be, and you passed a massive milestone last month, and you're really happy about passing that milestone because it de-risked it to a certain degree, to a very big degree. Are you going to have multiple risk, you know, risk pinch points here along the way, or is the process so well, thought out and so well already executed that you're not overly worried about it? But I would like to know where the risks are.
Well, it's going to be a question of execution risk, but I think that we have, the Novation team has demonstrated an ability to demonstrate within timeline. When they gave me a timeline, they're pretty good at respecting it. So that's mostly the execution risk. And because of the way we work this project, like there's been a lot of care and thought on how we're going to get to making the prototype. And one of the big exchange and discussion with the government with regard to the grant has been through this. And as you go through that, you think about how we're improving. So I think they went through the brainstorming to try to eliminate as many as many potential known risks that they could get rid of. There might be some unknown, but so far it looks very good. The reason being that these guys have been doing this for 15 years. They've been working at finding that holy grail solution for hydrogen, for doing hydrolysis hydrogen, which is what I explained. Okay, being able to separate the reaction, to be able to get a solid piece of metal to be fully consumed and react on demand, as opposed to what has presently been the only solution, which is to make nanopowders of aluminum or of silicon, have an extraordinary reactive material that's such a dangerous good. It's even more dangerous, more explosive than what you're replacing. So what are you replacing? You're replacing diesel fuel, kerosene. You're replacing those type of material. And if you're doing hydrolysis with a powder, nanopowder, you have something that's even more explosive, more dangerous. Not even excluding the health hazard, because nanoparticle can go into your lungs and those type of issues. In our case, it's a solid block.
Dr. Crane says, actually, before I go into Dr. Crane, okay, so all this sounds great. The MOU, when do you think you go to a definitive agreement? Because right now it's a memorandum of understanding.
Well,
Um, what triggers it you guys go, or is it just let's get an MOU done right now, keep moving forward, and let's start working on the definitive? Like, was this a case of let's get something down because we definitely want to work together, or are there some definite milestones that shareholders have to wait for until the MOU converts it to a DA, to a definitive agreement?
um, that's a good question. Can I give an exact answer? No, but I think it's going to be relatively fast, just because I think my the CEO of Novation is going to be in Malaysia, having one-on-one discussion with the team there. With regard to, as I said, they have an interest to being our supplier, one of our supplier of the METAGENE fuel. And also they have an interest in our waste to energy technology process. So I believe we will move into this as we get along. So the logic for us is basically the MOU is, it's clear that we're working together to do this. They have an interest. They wanted to be associated. The reason why we signed the MOU is because they also wanted to be associated with this project, because they think for them it's something good. It demonstrates something that's growing, an expansion of what they're doing, a potential expansion of what they're doing with this technology, and demonstrating that they're forward thinking in those type of issues. So it was a mutual idea. The next idea is going to be, okay, once we have the first prototype going, we have the first idea of sales going, then we're going to design, formal contracts for them to buy. I don't know what shape it's going to take. The clear message is this, is that we found a supplier that can make a material that's going to be perfect for us, aka a low cost, high impurity aluminum that we can be extruded in the shape we want to. When they saw that, they says, wait a minute, the METAGENE technology is something really interesting. We want to be part of that situation. How are we going to finalize this? We don't want to, but let's sign an MOU just to show the world that we want to work together.
Last question, I guess this is more ending on a positive note. Dr. Crane said,
I didn't say it
we
was
are on the
anything
cusp
negative.
of an energy revolution.
Mhm.
METAGENE makes green hydrogen accessible, safe, and cost effective.
Mhm.
How revolutionary is this? And if you can, not just from your opinions, because obviously that's what we would expect, but when you're speaking to the likes of the French military, the French arm that finances these things, even GLD, for example, um, how how do they react, and do they see it the same way? Like, you getting that same reaction from partners and the like that you're speaking to?
Oh, we get it. We get it from them, and I'm pretty sure when I start, I'm going to go present this to the Department of National Defense in Ottawa. They'll have the same reaction because it will meet one of their needs. This is a need that they know existed that nobody figured a way how to resolve it. AKA, how can you have a safe delivery of hydrogen anywhere in the world, right? That is a existential question, and the guys of Novasium have figured a way to do it by sending it in three. So, as weird as it is, we have a non-lethal, non-explosive energy source. The only other thing that can be declared the same thing is a battery, but a battery is a dangerous good because of the lithium into it, because the reactions can. Ours are not dangerous good. I cannot stress this more. Okay. The issue with hydrogen is its hazardous nature. Right. The issue with hazardous, it's a highly explosive, highly volatile gas. So when you ship hydrogen from point A to point B, the consumption price, you have to do it under pressure because all the technology that use hydrogen are under pressure. Okay. But you basically are carrying more metal than you're carrying hydrogen kilograms into it because of the safety fashion. I remember I was doing a presentation a bit on this technology here in Montreal, like last year, and I think 4 of the people presenting were telling us how they're reinventing better hydrogen transportation container to deal with the security risk and transport risk. And I just came along and says, okay, this is how we do it. We don't need this anymore. We haven't gone out and spoken too much about it. And it's one of the many pillars that there is within the HPQ Novasium brand. So I'm happy to be talking about it. I think the message I want people to understand is the potential is there that a company like GLD wants to be associated and wants, they're happy to have their name associated with us in this project.
Last question. This may be your shortest answer, but I have to ask because I've got you on the screen, and my flux capacitor tells me everyone is probably wondering when I'm going to ask you, but I'm going to ask, and I hope you can answer. Give us, how is everything going with the Fume Silica reactor? How is that coming along? What can you tell us, if anything, other than the big
Well,
smile? What else can you tell us?
I can't tell you anything outside of a press release, but what I can say is that it's moving in the right direction. I'm finally going to be in the position I always wanted to be, where we're going to have results from one test as the other tests are ongoing. This is ongoing. I'll be able to issue an update relatively soon on this.
Okay, I'll take that. I wasn't sure. Sometimes you just, keep to a one-word answer or whatever, but all right, my man, thanks for joining us. Congratulations on this MOU. I think we're all looking forward to seeing how fast this moves forward. So many moving parts, getting to hopefully the grant from the French military, building the pilot plant this year, starting to produce, starting to get it tested. So there's a lot of great things. And like I said, another pillar in the HPQ Parthenon. I'm going to say it's the HPQ Parthenon. We're going to incorporate some Greek in there, but congratulations, my man. Thanks for being here as always. For everybody at home, keep the questions coming. Post to Agoracom. Get engaging over there. Hope you guys enjoyed this. We're looking forward to your feedback. We know that there are going to be a couple of people who just aren't going to like this no matter what we said. So we look forward to that stuff too, actually, when we read that as well. But thanks for joining us, everybody. Have a great day. See you next time.
See you next time.
Hey, small cap fam. I hope you loved this interview because more than a dozen people were involved in its production for the sole purpose of making you happy. If so, can you take a moment to support both our awesome guest company and Agoracom? Your engagement means the world to us. First, if you enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up by tapping that like button. It's a small gesture that helps this interview reach even more potential investors to discover today's guest. Second, we would love to hear your feedback on this interview, so please leave a comment below. Be sure to keep it clean, but feel free to poke fun at George. If you loved what you heard on today's video and want to dig into our guest company right away, take a look at the links in the description below. And while you're at it, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell to never miss another great Agoracom small cap video. Thank you so much. We couldn't do any of this without you. Make sure to come back soon.